welcome back to the Jeff Fox Show. As I said, we were going to take a slight left from what we do normally here on the show, and we're going to talk a little music and hip-hop and radio and the kind of stuff that, I've been wanting to get into for a long time. Eventually, we will have a roundtable discussion here on the show. But my next guest is a 20-year veteran broadcaster. He does sports talk, and he's also the program director at Live from the MIARadio.com. And I'm talking about none other than my good friend, Lorenzo Ice-T Thomas. Welcome to the show.
And the crowd goes wild. That's what I'm talking about. I like it when the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. Hey, man, thanks for joining the show. Obviously, you've co-hosted with the Sports Brothers for a long time, and we've done our thing, man, and great friends on and off the air.
Yes.
What you been up to, first of all, Lorenzo, for those that want to keep up with you and Live from the MIA? Give us a little insight into that.
Well, right now, we're just trying to continue to grow and expand and remain innovative with Live from the MIA Radio. The website's livefromthemia.radio.com, or you can go to livefromthemia.com to check us out. And basically, the target demo of the radio station is a demographic that's being underserved by the current terrestrial radio stations. If you look at your adult contemporary radio stations, most of them shy away from playing the music that the core 25 to 54-year-old grew up on. So, that my job is to basically satisfy that audience. I feel as if consultants and presidents of programming for a lot of different companies have chased that demographic away from the radio because they're just serving an older demo and the younger demo, and they're forgetting about the demo that basically our generation, Jeff, and I think we'll expand a little bit more on that demographic and why it needs to be served and how it influences how it influences our generation, but how today's music influences the kids of today as well.
No doubt, and that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, how music influences the kids of today. And I'll be honest with you, Lorenzo, it's hard-pressed for me as a parent. Granted, my kid's a little older now, but my youngest is 12 and about to be 13, a teenager. It's hard for me to ride around and listen to today's hip-hop and R&B stations with my kids in the car because of the content of the music and what they're saying in the songs. And it's song after song after song, and they're very sexually explicit. They incite, lyrically anyway, violence, in my opinion. Am I just sounding like my parents did back in the 80s when we were listening to Run DMC and Kool Moe Dee and that type of stuff?
Jeff?
Is this just a recycling of that?
Yeah, Jeff, you are absolutely sounding just like your parents. And I sound just like my parents. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If there are any kids that are listening to this right now, they would say, you are just too old. And I am just too old. We just have matured and grown. And that kind of goes to say what my issue was, or what, the reason why I'm no longer at 99 Jams. I basically was out of the demo. However, I was able to fool them, you know what I'm saying, and continue to, have strong numbers and dominate the market in my time slot. And those may remember when the Pete first signed on, they attacked my age. That was the first thing that they went at, because they figured that if they did that, then it would be, well, what does he know about hip-hop? Well, not to sound too arrogant, but I have probably forgotten more hip-hop than most of today's people know, throughout my lifetime. That's how much I know about hip-hop. But today's hip-hop, it just doesn't move me. It doesn't stimulate my intellect. And that's where it comes to, whereas you're not moved by it. But I think it has a lot to do with, the upbringing of today's generation. Because if their parents are exposing them to more things, then they're going to be moved by more things. Like, say, for example, we'll go back and say, okay, hip hop really started to be embraced by radio, we would say, in the 90s. You know what I mean? That's when radio started to play hip hop. And if you go back and you look at the songs that were hot in the late 80s that basically forced, and I kind of used this example before, you look at Biz Markie. You remember his song, Pickin' Boogers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was influenced by Pickin' Boogers. You know what I mean? It was a funny record. I was influenced by that. I was also influenced by Dougie Fresh. And he influenced me in so many different ways, but there was a song that he had out with Slick Rick called Treat Her Like a Prostitute. And that probably influenced me a great deal with how I began to just basically treat women like objects because of that particular song. But during that era, you had those type of artists who were great, but then you also had your public enemies who taught us to fight the power and stimulated that intellect. So you had balance. You had KRS-One, who was, first came out with Criminal Minded, but now is known as the teacher, and had a song called Beef. What a relief. When will this poisonous product cease? Here's another public service announcement. People may try it, but then some may doubt it. That song, when it came out, along with the movie Malcolm X, I think it was around the same time, I stopped eating beef, and I have not eaten beef since then. When you look at the context of the music during our era, we were being educated by so many different you could say genres, because R&B and then house music and club music and reggae music along with hip hop music influenced us. And that goes back to what I was saying about programmers missing that void. The 80s music does well because basically in the 80s all you heard was R&B. But once you came into the 90s, you got influenced by so many different genres of music. It was hip-hop, it was reggae, it was club, it was house, and it was also R&B, and then throw in the new jack swing if you want to. So that's the void that's being missed, but we were influenced by so many. That's why we know right from wrong. Today's generation, the artists are dumbing down the music with a few exceptions. You start with Kendrick Lamar. I like Drake because he does a variety of things. This is an overkill with Drake. Yeah. But when you come out with a hit record, you come out with a hit record. You know what I mean? So there's so many different. Common, love Common, but Common's been around forever. So but is Common being played in the mainstream? No, he's not. So basically the problem is that today's kids, you might as well say, is just getting that dumbed down music. And the artist can continue to dumb it down as long as it continues to sell.
That's interesting because I've been a critic of today's music, but some of it I like a lot. I mean, some of them, the styles are different. I talked to Chuck D. I spoke with Frank Ski, radio veteran like yourself. And Jason Whitlock from ESPN.
Yep. Oh,
we had like a roundtable discussion on the whole state of hip hop. And Chuck told us, look, you can't be too critical of the youngsters today because folks were critical of us back in the day.
Right.
It seems to me that these youngsters that are going around killing each other and shooting each other, that the violent tendencies associated with hip-hop, and I'm not trying to sound like C. Dolores Tucker, but there just seems to be a direct link, and especially when you ride around in your cars and you're hearing a lot of the lyrics, it seems like they're being exposed to too much too soon when it comes to the music targeting the younger demographic. Like it's just for them at that age.
I know. I see exactly where you're coming from, and I feel you, and I understand your point of view. But I mean, I'm from New York, and I grew up in New York, and I was raised by a village, and coming up and growing up in New York, it was violent. I mean, there was a lot of violence going on in New York, and it didn't necessarily have to do anything with the music. You know what I mean? I grew up during the golden era of hip hop where it was basically all about partying. but yet and still there was still violence. And then, some of the lyrics and some of the hip hop at that time was talking about, let's use KRS-One for an example. Criminal Minded was one of those records. And then if you go to the early 90s, you had NWA. They weren't necessarily preaching violence. They were basically newscasters of what was going on in their neighborhood. But the perception of what they were doing was basically preaching violence. So to say that just the music today is it's playing an influence on them, yes, but it's also up to I hate to put it, but it's also up to the parents. I mean, you got to watch what your kids are listening to, and then explain to them. I mean, let's go back. You know what I mean? Our rated X stuff was let's say I couldn't wait till my mom would disappear so I could go pick up that Richard Pryor album. You know what I mean? So I could hear what Richard Pryor was talking about. Or I wanted to hear Red Fox. Or I wanted to hear what Eddie Murphy was saying. Or George Carlin. You know what I mean? Some of those great comedians who were just keeping it raw. What were they talking about? They were talking about sex. They were talking about drugs. They were talking about violence. So they weren't selling as many albums as today's hip-hop artists. But a lot, those comedians reached a lot of people and influenced you. So you still needed your parents and you needed that village, which doesn't exist today. You know what I mean? To raise you and help. So to a certain extent, it does have an influence on them, and it comes back. I hate to say it, but it comes back on the parents, because I have to. My 2-year-old going on 20 has her own tablet. So she's on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, you was watching Minnie Mouse. Now I see you watching some short films that some families made, and what's going on in these short films? You got to make sure you have those filters on there to keep them from going to see, explicit content. So it's really, it falls on the parents to make sure, like I said earlier, that the kids know right from wrong. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's not fair. It's not fair to blame. It's not fair to blame program directors around the country. It's not fair to blame rappers like Migos or YG or who's some of the other ASAP Rocky or 2 Chainz, the Young Jeezy, all these guys that are out today, and the stuff that they rap about today. It's not really fair to blame them for some of what's going on in our community.
It would have to be a collective, but between the industry and the program directors. Radio, it's a business, so you have to play those hit records. A lot of times they're late on the hit records, because radio's not in the business of breaking music anymore. So 9 times out of 10, the kids already know the hit record before the program director puts it on the radio. So basically, it's not even the fault of, it's not even really, if you think about it, as I continue to talk about it, I think I answered that question myself. It's not even it's not even the radio stations anymore because of the power of digital. That's why I have live from the MIA. You can reach people faster than just as fast as the terrestrial radio stations. So regardless if the radio station plays a song or not, those kids, they already know the song. You know what I mean? Like Chance the Rapper, he won those Grammys last night because his album was streamed. And the industry's looking at what he accomplished just by streaming his album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So these kids are going to get that information, just like I compared it to the Eddie Murphy album. We were going to go ahead and we were going to get that content.
One way or the other. Yeah.
We're going to find a way. The kids are going to find a way to be able to get that content. So, regardless, and that goes for each and every generation. The kids are going to be, they're up on technology before we're on technology now because we got more things to do in our lives. Or what do they have to do? They sit around and, they play on their phones and, they go to school, they do their homework. You know what I mean? That's about it. So, or if they participate in some extracurricular activities, they have those things to do. It's just, you just have to understand that so much of this music, and the artists know that they're doing it, is dumbed down. It's dumbed down. Right. So if the kids are not receiving the proper education in the schools, I mean, that's the big picture. It starts with education, and we just look at this woman that's been nominated to go in Trump's cabinet, DeVos, who is not even from public school, but she's going to be overseeing public schools.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Crazy.
That's a problem right there. So, I mean, so the kids have to be educated in the schools to find out, what it is that they, what are they going to learn how to play instruments? If they're playing instruments, then they're creating different music. You know what I mean?
Correct.
I just remember 50 Cent at one time. He was complaining. 50 Cent in an interview. He was just telling me, Lorenzo, I have to dumb it down. Not that he's had a hit record anytime soon, anytime recently, but the artists talk about, who is it? I think it's Future, who has a degree.
Ah, yes, he's another one.
Was it Future or 2 Chainz? I'm not sure which one. It's either Future or 2 Chainz who has a degree, but when they cut on that microphone, I think it's really Future that you can't even understand what he's saying.
Right. You listen to the Jeff Fox. Yep. You listen to the Jeff Fox Show. We're talking with veteran broadcaster Lorenzo Ice-T Thomas, who is also the program director live from the MIARadio.com.
Yeah.
Lorenzo, I got one more for you. I've got a daughter who's a rapper. It's pretty good. But
okay.
I have concerns. Because I also found a video on YouTube of over nearly maybe 50 or 60 rappers that were murdered within the last year or two on YouTube. I found the video. And I want to know, why is it that there's this violence associated with hip-hop? Like, when will we realize that hip-hop is an art? Like, John Wayne or Jamie Foxx or those guys, they don't have to worry about getting into gunfights on the streets. How come we as artists, when it comes to hip-hop, cannot separate the two, the art from the reality? What do you think that is?
That's a good question. Because
you don't see the Backstreet Boys. You don't see the Backstreet Boys pulling drive-by.
I think that, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear that question and I hear the phrase art and reality, the art is all they know, so that becomes their reality. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're not educated to know that you can make it out of the hood or you can make it out of the ghetto, that art is your reality, and that's your only way out. If you're not educated to know that you could be more than just a rapper, you can be, and I hate, a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher or something that you have to be, or even a politician. You know what I mean? If you're not exposed to that in your own village or your own domain, all you see is basically what's coming out of your hood are the Tricks, the Trinas, the Rick Rosses, or the Khaled's, or the Pit Bulls. When you see those people that are from your hood, and then they basically, shoot to stardom, all you see, then that becomes your reality. And those kids need to be exposed to more than just that. So therefore, if that's your reality and somebody disses you, woo, that's just not like going in the boxing ring, and sparring it out with somebody. They have killed and destroyed your reality. So what we have to do as a community, as a people, is change their reality and let them know there's more than just the rap. Because what we see, I mean, if all they see, like you see the Grammys, I mean, you look at Chance the Rapper and how he made it, and he's won 2 Grammys.
Right.
He won 2 Grammys. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I knew he was going to win Best New Artist, but I'm sitting there looking at, what was it, Album of the Year? He beat out Drake and Khaled?
Yep.
What? I was sitting here at the TV like, wow. I was like, that's incredible. Well, what that said to me and how the kids need to be, there's another way to do it. He didn't go through, he released his album streaming. That's why the
Right.
digital platform is the future. That's why terrestrial radio is nervous when it comes to digital and internet radio. Because they look at
Yeah.
what Chance the Rapper did. So there are other ways to get your music out there. There are other ways to basically become a Grammy Award winner, and there are other ways to become a successful broadcaster other than terrestrial. So you have to see it. You have to be exposed to it, and those kids have to see that. Yes, you can be a rapper, but then you can also be an actor. You know what I mean? You can also be a fashion designer. You can also be an artist. You know, in the 90s, hip hop exposed us to so many different. I mean, God, if it wasn't for hip hop, I don't know if I would have become a successful DJ, because of rapping and being in the parties just allowed me to be able to articulate and express myself in a fashion that I didn't have to be afraid about getting on the stage and talking to people, or, you know, getting people to participate. But the kids needed to be exposed. We were in the 90s exposed, as I said before, to so many different genres of music that we love all genres of music. It's not just hip hop. R&B right now is suffering. You know what I mean? They're not exposed to They're not exposed to enough of it. And it's like you got Chris Brown, who's an R&B artist, but he makes sure he don't fall out of that lane, because he don't want to be, you know, he's actually an R&B artist that has kind of like, he sings kind of in a high voice. So he's got to fight and command for respect, you know what I mean, from the hip-hop industry, because he's an R&B artist. You know what I mean? So Trey Songz is kind of like, you know what I mean, in that same category, to whereas, you know, they have to make sure they fight to be respected by this generation because they're an R&B artist. So I think that to answer your question, I got a little long-winded there, but I think it covers a whole lot. Is that they have to be exposed to more than just what they see on television as what is successful. And right now, a lot of what they see is just the hip-hop artist, you know, being successful.
Yeah. Folks, you can follow him on Twitter at Lorenzo Thomas. He is the program director, once again, live from the MIAradio.com. Lorenzo, an interesting conversation, man. We definitely got to have that round table with a few of our contemporaries as well and continue the discussion, because I think in order to find the solution, you have to find the discussion. And, you know, we have to hear our younger kids as well. We need to listen to them, to their point of view.
Exactly.
And find out what it is. So definitely appreciate you, man, and look forward to having you on the show again real soon.
Yeah, and I look forward to hearing you. See, he's being humble over there. He didn't plug the fact that Jeff Fox show comes on live from the MIA Friday nights, 7 to midnight. So I had to go ahead and do his gratuitous plug for him.
That's what a great program director does, my man.
And let's go Heat. I know the streak is over, but, yo, I'm so proud of the Miami Heat and what they're doing right now. They're going to come back. I mean, they played. I know we got to go, but they had 3 games and 4 nights. They looked a little tired against Philadelphia. And Philly was hungry after they got blown out the last time they played them, where the Heat put 125 on them. So, but tonight we're home. We're playing Orlando. We're going to start another streak. So that's another conversation. Jeff, I'll talk to you later, my brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Appreciate the love.